biggest plays that set the stage for the dynasty that is the Kansas City Chiefs. 2, Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Tom Brady, Usher, Taylor Swift, breaking down the ads and the halftime with Outkick's Bobby Burek. And 3, he's been to 20 Super Bowls. What's the best stadium? What's the best city? What's the best game in America for the biggest game in America? The Super Bowl with American Newsroom's Bill Himmer. It is the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com and on the Fox News YouTube channel, as well on Fox's Facebook page. You can always catch us on demand on YouTube. Will Cain Show. Hit subscribe. Catch any of our exclusive interviews. You can always get us in audio format at Apple, Spotify, or at Fox News Podcast. This is it. This is the final show from Las Vegas of the Fox News channel. This is the final show from Super Bowl 58. You're looking at live at Allegiant Stadium right outside of Las Vegas, Nevada. You can see the skyline of Las Vegas just beyond the stadium, the Strip. You can see the Aria, the MGM. You can see Caesars. You can see the Rio. You can see Las Vegas. And in the background, you see the mountains you forget are in this beautiful state of Nevada. The mountains right now covered in snow. People don't expect. You come to the desert and it freezes at night. But I would expect, because I've been sitting out here at 2:30 a.m. throughout the past weekend to hang out with you on the East Coast or you on the West Coast who are getting up early for Fox and Friends. And let me tell you something about Las Vegas. Let me tell you something about Las Vegas at 2:30 a.m. It's zesty. This is not a time when people are thinking about coffee or sleeping in. This is a time when people are far, far from going to bed. This is a city that, well, is aptly named Sin City. I don't know what the ladies are wearing today, but it's somewhere between a bikini and a piece of lingerie. I come out to do Fox and Friends, and I feel like I don't know the relationship. I don't know if this is a professional relationship. I don't know if this is just this is romance. I don't know what's going on, as I'm just trying to make my way to the virtual curvy couch. But that's Sin City. It's gambling. It's tequila in the air. It is the home of this Super Bowl. And by the way, I guess I couldn't have found a more appropriate place to signify Super Bowl and Las Vegas than going to Gronk's beach party. On Saturday, I flew in. I went to the Encore. I met up with Rob Gronkowski. I met up with Flo Rida. I met up with the legend that is Flava Flav. And I saw Gronk's beach party. Check it out. What's up, Gronk?
How you doing, Will? How you doing, man?
How many years is this?
We're at Gronk Beach 4.0, but it's Gronk Beach 2.0 here at Encore. It's electric. It's amazing that the Super Bowl is here in Vegas for the first time ever. I think Vegas should host it every year. They can handle it. The energy's just electric. Just an unbelievable time.
Gronk Beach Party seems like it's made for Vegas. Look at this.
Exactly. It is made for Vegas. Just a great time. All the fans signed all their jerseys. We threw out shirts in the crowd. We signed footballs, threw out footballs in the crowd. Let me tell you, perfect spirals.
How many hours will you party today?
Well, I started at like 2 o'clock, and this goes till 6, so 4 hours straight for sure. Flo Rida's about to perform. Best performer of all time, Flo Rida.
The whole family's here. How many Gronk family members are here right now?
We got all 5 brothers here right now.
All 5, all dancing. We're all just having a good time. That's what we do.
Everyone says whenever Travis Kelce comes up, it's still Gronk. Best tight end in the game. Best tight end to ever play the game.
I mean, I love Travis Kelce. I played the game to my potential to the fullest I could, and that's all I could ask for. Travis Kelce's a great player as well, and without him, there wouldn't be me, and without me, there wouldn't be him, so we love each other.
Who's going to win the Super Bowl?
49ers.
49ers. Hey, man, thanks for having us at Gronk Beach, man. You got to show me how to party here.
You just take shots and jump up and down.
Just got off stage. Did you have fun, Flo Rida?
Let me tell you, all I got to say is Gronk Beach and the Gronk family. You can't help but be inspired. They are the life of the party every time.
You talk about the family.
Nobody was jumping around more than his dad, Gronk's dad.
No, but now you see where they get it from.
You were saying, like, as a party, this is it. Gronk Beach Party. What about that Fox and Friends summer concert series?
Welcome to my house. Amazing.
Come back? You gonna come back?
I'm definitely coming back.
I had to meet a legend, Flavor Flav.
We're in the building. We are here.
And it was awesome you walking up there. And they said Flavor Flav, yeah, boy. I was like, no. I've been a fan since I was a kid.
Wow, thank you.
Show us the clock, though.
Thank you,
Let me
man.
say the clock. Titus O'Neil, WWE star, man. What brought you to the beach party?
Just coming out here and hanging out with Gronk and some more friends, and he always knows how to throw a party, and the Super Bowl's biggest party of the year. We got two amazing teams that made it to the final with the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs, so I'm looking forward to seeing a great.
Who's your pick?
It's hard for me to pick, man. It's very hard to go against Pat Mahomes. If they can contain him and Travis Kelce, I think the 49ers got a really good chance.
Everything I said, I had to yell. I've got a rough voice from getting up early in the morning. It's not from smoking cigarettes at the blackjack tables. I haven't been doing that. It's been yelling at Gronk's beach party to try to interview people and getting up at literally at 2 o'clock in the morning to head over to the television set. You can see, by the way, I've talked about it being freezing. I mean, snow on the mountains outside of Vegas. One thing Gronk did not have right, though, was his prediction for the game. You heard him say San Francisco 49ers. Instead, what we have now is a legitimate dynasty in the Kansas City Chiefs. 3 championships in 5 years. That makes you a dynasty. And that puts the Chiefs in a conversation now with Lombardi's Packers, with Chuck Noll's Steelers, with the 49ers of the 80s and the 90s, with the Dallas Cowboys of the 90s and the New England Patriots of the 2000s. You now have the Kansas City Chiefs sitting there in a top 6 or 7 of NFL franchises, and they're just getting started. There's no reason to believe that Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs are done winning championships. We're going to talk about that coming up here in a little bit with America's Newsroom's Bill Hemmer, who knows a lot about sports, who's been to 15 to 20 Super Bowls. But I mentioned that I went to my first Super Bowl. I've been very fortunate to go to several Super Bowls, both through work and personal. My first Super Bowl was 31 years ago, and it was in Pasadena, California. It was the Rose Bowl. It was Super Bowl 27. It was Cowboys-Bills, the very first Cowboy-Bills Super Bowl. My dad took me, just the two of us. We would go on to watch the Cowboys dynasty and go to all 3 of those Super Bowls. And eventually my other brothers went, the rest of my family went. But that year it was just me and my dad. My dad's long past. It's been over 20 years since I lost my dad. But I can't tell you this was calculated, but here we are 31 years later. I found the hat in the closet, the Super Bowl 27 hat. 31 years later, I brought that hat to the Super Bowl, and I flew my son out here, him 16 years old, and he went to this Super Bowl with me last night, his first Super Bowl. And I got to tell you, there's so many things in this show today. We're going to talk about it with Bill Hemmer. We're going to talk about it with Bobby Burack, to love about sports, to love about football. But in the end, this is what it's all about. It's about relationships, your buddies, your boys, your sons, and your fathers. This Super Bowl will always be about me and my son watching this Chiefs dynasty at Super Bowl 58. Now, let's talk about the biggest hidden moments in the game, starting with story number 1. 3 big moments in the game. Of course, everybody's going to talk about the game-winning drive. Everyone's going to talk about the Super Bowl record field goals that helped set up overtime between the San Francisco 49ers and the Kansas City Chiefs. But let me share with you 3 moments in the game that allowed this to be another piece of evidence, an entry into the argument that the Kansas City Chiefs are a dynasty, that allowed them to win the Super Bowl. Number 1, when the San Francisco 49ers went ahead they scored their 16th point. They trotted out the field goal kicker, rookie Jake Moody, who in the first quarter set a Super Bowl record by kicking a 55-yard field goal. That was later broken, by the way, in the third quarter by Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker, who hit a 57-yarder field goal. But Moody's extra point was blocked by the Kansas City Chiefs. Instead of going up 17-10, it was 17-13, it was 16-13. That difference, making it a field goal game versus a 4-point game, allowed Patrick Mahomes at the end, allowed the Chiefs to play for the game-tying field goal. Now, we can have a conversation about whether or not a touchdown, if it was required, would have been an inevitability with Holmes. But in the end, he didn't need it. All he needed was a field goal, allowing him to push that game to overtime because of that moment, that blocked field goal. I think this could have been called the special teams Super Bowl. This game was about special teams. Bring me to the second hidden biggest moment of the game. This one's not as hidden because everybody talks about it, but the clear momentum shift was the muffed punt by the San Francisco 49ers. The muffed punt that clipped the foot of a San Francisco 49er, and Ray McCloud tried to recover it. It ends up in the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs. Before that, the Chiefs could do nothing. The 49ers owned this game. They were the dominant team. Their defense dictated this game. Patrick Mahomes could do nothing. It was amazing in the stadium to watch it unfold. I mean, Chiefs fans were deflated. This was a home game for Niners, by the way. 2-1 margin, Niner fans to Chief fans. Niner fans going nuts. And you kept waiting, like, when is Patrick Mahomes going to do something? And he didn't. Coming down the third quarter, he threw an interception. You're like, oh my gosh, maybe that's never going to come. The Patrick Mahomes moment. But that muffed punt changed the momentum of the game. Something that the Niners had been holding on to all of a sudden started to feel like it was slipping away, which is kind of a story for Niners coach Kyle Shanahan. He had a 10-point lead and make this the third Super Bowl where he had over a 10-point lead to choke it away to lose the Super Bowl. That punt, the second biggest hidden moment. And then the third, final drive, 4th and 1, in overtime. The ball's in Patrick Mahomes' hands. You know, that Niners defense had been incredible throughout the game. The Chiefs were something like 4 of 12. I don't have it in front of me, but something like 4 of 12 on third down throughout the game. And yet, you knew, and I knew, and I think everybody watching knew, Mahomes is going to convert this 4th and 1. It was a pivotal moment in the game, but at the same time, it was one that you knew would happen. And I think that's one of my biggest takeaways in the end. I can give you the hidden moments, the big moments, and it sounds simplistic, but it's also just true. Patrick Mahomes was going to win the game for the Chiefs. That ball, if it ended up in his hands on a final drive, was going to end up in a win for the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, football's complicated, and there's a lot of really important small moments, but in the end, the Chiefs have the best player in the game. And right now, that player has been unstoppable, and that's added up to 4 Super Bowl appearances in 5 years and 3 championships in 5 years, and that's added up to a dynasty for the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll break all of it down, including a scope of 20 years of Super Bowls with American Newsroom's Bill Hemmer coming up. But next, let's go into Tom Brady. Let's go into Matt Damon, Ben Affleck, Usher, Taylor Swift, with Outkicks, Bobby Burak. That's coming up in just a moment here on The Will Cain Show.
From the Fox News Podcasts Network. Listen to the all-new Bret Baier podcast featuring Common Ground, talking to lawmakers weekly from opposite sides of the political spectrum about the issues of the day and how Americans can find common ground in a politicized world.
That's just not happening on Capitol Hill. It takes leadership, right?
Yeah, it absolutely does.
Along with all your Bret Baier favorites like the campaign, the candidates, the all-star panel, and much more. Available now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts. Your favorite Fox News funny man, Jimmy Fallon, has a new book, The Cancel Culture Dictionary.
How have we not gotten a game show spinoff called Wheel of Cancel?
No, it's not an actual dictionary. It's an A to Z guide to winning the war on fun.
The fact that we're defunding the joke police is a win for America.
With a collection of cancellations by the outrage mob, Jimmy Fallon's Cancel Culture Dictionary.
Yo, what is going on in this country right now?
Order your copy of The Cancel Culture Dictionary now at foxnewsbooks.com.
I'm Dana Perino, co-host of The Five and co-anchor of America's Newsroom. Join me for my brand new podcast, Perino on Politics. Listeners of Everything Will Be Okay will gravitate toward this podcast too. Every Monday, I'm going to talk to people I trust in politics as they tell me what they're seeing and thinking in the 2024 election cycle. As they prep me to cover the upcoming election, they'll prep you, the voters, too. Make sure you subscribe to this series on foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts and leave a rating and review.
Is the NFL like the WWE? Is it scripted? Is it rigged, the NFL? It's the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com and on the Fox News YouTube channel and on Facebook, the Fox News Facebook page. It's always on demand, the Will Cain Show on YouTube and at Apple, Spotify, or at Fox News Podcast. Hit subscribe and you'll be able to catch any of our past episodes and exclusive interviews right here on the Will Cain Show. Let's bring in now Outkick's Bobby Burak to discuss everything around the game and in the broadcast that is the Super Bowl. What's up, Bobby?
Hey, appreciate it. I just want to preference my comments here. All of my sports takes, I've been rehearsing and getting notes from your co-host, Rachel Campos Duffy. I thought if I was going to go head-to-head with you on sports, I needed some backup. So she provided me with some talking points. Just wanted to get that out of the way first.
Oh, let's hear it then. I think she might be a one-hit wonder with you batting cleanup for her on the one time she got a sports prediction right. But has she passed you a note on the Super Bowl?
Well, just general football talking points. She thinks that tight ends are the most important position other than quarterbacks, so not terrible. She is still a little perturbed by Mike McCarthy's clock management, she said, and Dak's interception she said she can't quite get over.
Is that right? I see. Hey, Bobby, by the way, and I will go to the mat now, not defending Dak, but putting him in to the rest of the league category when it comes to quarterbacks outside of Patrick Mahomes, because now you can say the same things about Lamar Jackson and for that matter Brock Purdy, but more importantly Kyle Shanahan. This is the third Super Bowl that Kyle Shanahan has choked a pretty big lead. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. Is it fair to point out now that he has lost leads of over 10 points in the Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, look, who's he lost those three to, right? Tom Brady, Mahomes, probably the two best quarterbacks ever. And who do you have on his side? Matt Ryan, pretty good quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo, below average. Brock Purdy, I'd say slightly above average. But I don't put that much on Shanahan because what Mahomes is doing is so much what Jordan did in the 90s, where there were all these great players and coaches, but he just beats all of them, and everybody looks like they come up short because they go up against Mahomes, right? From Josh Allen to Lamar Jackson to Joe Burrow last year, Jalen Hurts, Kyle Shanahan, Brock Purdy, John Harbaugh. It really hasn't mattered. So I don't think Harbaugh deserves any more criticism than most of those coaches. You go back to last night's game. I mean, the only questionable call on his part was taking the ball first in overtime. Other than that, I thought he mostly outcoached Andy Reid.
Boy, you're absolutely right. Does he deserve any more criticism than, say, Jerry Sloan, the legendary coach of the Utah Jazz, who had to go up against Michael Jordan throughout the 90s? And you're absolutely right about the incredible, even legendary players of the NBA who will never be seen in the same light because they happen to be playing in the same era as Michael Jordan. Well, that's Karl Malone, John Stockton, Shawn Kemp, Charles Barkley, guys that couldn't win a championship because they existed at the same time as Michael Jordan. And I think those players you just mentioned, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson's, their real fault is simply existing at the same time as Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I made a joke about this last night. I was one of the people who thought the gap between Mahomes and Josh Allen was actually quite slim after that, 2 years ago when they went head-to-head in the divisional round at one of the greatest games ever. But, I mean, I was wrong. What Mahomes is doing is, I would argue, in team sports, the most impressive start to any career. Most people would argue prior to him it was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I think Patrick Mahomes has him beaten. I mean, let's just run through it. 6 years in the NFL, 6 AFC championship games, 4 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowl wins. He has 3 playoff losses, and we can memorize them because there's so few. What happened the first one? He had Tom Brady beaten, and Dee Ford, his teammate, lined up off sides and cost them the game. The second one, his offensive line was depleted. He lost his left tackle before the Super Bowl. He had no chance. Then there was that Bengals one where he was somewhat at fault for blowing it. But other than that, he has 15 playoff wins, I think, already 3 Super Bowls at 28 years old. I mean, Will, I'm a big fan of Aaron Rodgers, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees. He's passed all of them at 28 years old.
I think you're absolutely correct. And I don't have a rooting interest in this. I think, but you put it really well, like the best start to a career that you could possibly imagine. And he just did it with possibly his weakest team yet. This Kansas City Chiefs team wasn't that great as an all-around team, and he just won the Super Bowl with this squad, which makes you also wonder where he can take it. Now, let's talk about a comparison to Brady, because you brought all these other guys up. So Brady won 7 Super Bowls, 6 as a Patriot, 1 as a Buck. And his last one was, what was it, 40 years old, 41 years old? Mm-hmm. So Mahomes is 28. That gives him 12, 13-year run to win 4 more Super Bowls. Now, that's difficult, honestly. That's winning one every 4 years. No, that's winning one every 3 years. And that would be incredible. So part of me wants to think, hey, don't start having this Brady-Mahomes conversation, because there are injuries, there are coaching changes, there's just bad luck. There's burnout. Maybe he doesn't have the same discipline that Brady has. So I'm not sure we're ready for that debate. But on the other hand, look at the current momentum you just pointed out. 6 straight AFC championship games. There's nothing to indicate, after he just won it with one of his weakest teams, that there's anything standing in his way of catching Brady.
Well, and I don't know that he has to catch Brady in number of Super Bowls to be considered the GOAT, right? Bill Russell has 11 rings, Michael Jordan has 6, but we all consider Jordan better than Russell. Now, why would I make that case? Well, a couple things, right? Brady's first 3 Super Bowls, he was somewhat of a game manager, right? Those were defensive-heavy teams. He didn't do a whole lot to win those 3. And then that one against the Rams, he didn't do hardly anything. I think James White was the MVP. So Mahomes has already done more in those 3 Super Bowls, and I'd argue Brady has in any of his wins. I mean, Mahomes took a team that led the league in drops. His all-pro left guard, Joe Tooney, was out. He just won the Super Bowl with the highest DVOA in the playoffs ever, going through a gauntlet. So I don't think he necessarily has to catch Brady in rings, because eye test says he's better than Brady, right? That 4th and 1 play last night, Brady doesn't make that. Mahomes is a bigger arm. He's more mobile. In a lot of ways, he's just a better football player than Brady. He is Aaron Rodgers physically, but Tom Brady mentally.
That's really good. But no one's going to say yet that I certainly wouldn't say he's above Brady, but there will be a number, and maybe you're right. It maybe doesn't have to be 7, where his talent and the way he's won these Super Bowls will be enough, combined with how many he's won, to surpass Brady. And I don't know when we'll legit 5. I don't know that 4 will do it, because you're still like, that's 7's a lot more than 4. Maybe 5 is the number where you're
4
like,
because Montana has 4, so I think he has to get 5 just to wipe away Montana, right? Like, if you were to ask me today, legacy-wise, not player, who are the rank 1 through 5, I put Brady 1, Montana 2, Mahomes 3, Elway 4, and Peyton 5, just based on legacy. So he still has the elite Montana, but he's well on his way. I believe he's 1 playoff win short of Montana. I mean, he'd probably break that next year.
That's a really good list, Bobby. That was good. I don't know if you prepped that or threw that together, but that's a really good list. And I think you're right. And I'm going to say it's 5. Once he wins 5, then we can have a serious conversation of Brady versus Mahomes. Hey, so it's interesting being inside the stadium. I've been, as I mentioned, as a fan now, this is my 4th Super Bowl to go to. The other 3, though, were in the 90s, and they were all Cowboys Super Bowls, and I had a vested interest. But I went to the one where Michael Jackson performed at halftime, Bobby. And it was interesting. When you got to your seat back in the 90s, you had there was something sitting in your seat, like a card. And we all held up the card, we had instructions ahead of the game, and the card had colors on each side. So from a television perspective, it looked like the crowd, the bowl was changing, choreographed with certain cards. Last night, you sat down and you put on a lanyard with an Apple Music thing, and it had a light that would shine, and it was choreographed. So when Usher was out there, the crowd, had this like choreographed starlight going on around the crowd. But one thing that was weird that I noticed being in the stadium, it was a little underwhelming, the halftime show, Usher.
Huh.
And then somebody said to me, this is not programmed for you. This whole thing is not for you sitting in the stands right now. This is for television. In the 90s, it would have been a huge stage, a grand production, and it was as much for the people in the stands as it was for the people on television. And this was produced for television. And when I looked online, everybody seemed to love the halftime performance.
Yeah, I think it's a really smart point, because as the NFL has evolved, it's become much more of a TV show than it is a event to go see, right? It's still a lot of fun to go see an NFL game, but watching it on TV is overall a better experience. So I do think that they programmed it and choreographed it for TV, as they did last year with Rihanna. So that doesn't surprise me at all. And I also say the halftime isn't really for you and I anymore, because we watch football no matter what, right? Halftime is for the casual fans. And I think Usher exceeded expectations, right? Like growing up with two sisters, they loved Usher. They were all in on the halftime performance, and I thought he was very good. You can debate his historical, where he ranks historically in halftimes. I happen to think that Michael Jackson one that you mentioned is number 2 all time. I thought Usher was one of the better ones in the past, say, 5-6 years.
What's number 1?
Oh, the Prince. Remember when he came out in Miami singing Purple Rain, and rain just started to come down, natural rain? I thought that was one of the coolest Super Bowl moments ever. I rewatched that halftime performance last week, and I thought that was awesome. If you don't remember that one, it will never be topped. The rain, he came out on the stage with his cymbal. I thought he was a 10 out of 10. He's so good.
Do you think, I was thinking back about this last night, the third Cowboys Super Bowl in the 90s was in Atlanta, and the halftime show, I think it was Garth Brooks and Clint Black, and it was all country music. And I was sitting there last night thinking, will they ever do something like that again? Or to your point, this is for as many people as possible. So you got to hit the musical genre that is, I guess, the most common out there in America. And country's popular, but a start to finish country music halftime, which I would love. I mean, that's my genre more than Usher. But I don't know that I'll ever see it again. I don't think Zach Bryan, Chris Stapleton, are they going to get a halftime show together?
Now, MTV did a study 5 years ago about the most passionate music fans when it comes to watching things live, and it's teenage girls 12 through 17. So I tend to think when they're deciding who's going to perform, they have that demographic in mind, which, oh, by the way, is where the NFL has seen the biggest uptick this year because of Taylor Swift. So I'm not sure country music hits that demographic. So I think you see people like Usher, Rihanna, Alicia Keys, Bruno Mars. So I'll be surprised if country music comes back around. I think because that reaches a demographic that tends to be older and male, which is already watching football no matter what.
So we're going to talk about my experience inside the stadium a little bit later with Bill Himmer. I'm going to tell you about the stadium, which is the new stadium here behind me, the Death Star, Allegiant Stadium. But because I was in the stadium, Bobby, I didn't get to see the ads. And I know that's one of the big things people talk about. I did this morning see the Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Tom Brady, Dunkin' Donuts ad. And I thought it was really good. I loved it. It was kind of like bro comedy, a bro relationship between Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. I thought you were going to support me. Tell me about the ads around the Super Bowl.
I like that one. I also like the one with your new friend, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. They had a really cool one with Cody Rhodes. But we'll be honest, I miss a lot of the ads because in between commercial breaks, I'm checking my prop bets and betting on the game and seeing what everybody's complaining about. So I do miss a lot of the ads. But I did catch a few of them I thought were pretty good. The Affleck one was good. The one, I think Doritos had a funny one. So I can't speak too much on that because I did tend to block out a lot of the ads on that one. But I will say this, last year they had the Sopranos one. That one I thought was so well done. I love when they bring in old TV stars to recreate the magic. I think 3 years ago they did Breaking Bad. I did look. I don't think they did that last time with any drama series.
All right, so I want to actually, I don't know where you're going to go with this. So we're either going to address it and then wipe it away, or we're going to have to get into a big debate. You're a big WWE fan. Speaking of bringing of WWE, everyone knows it's scripted. This is a growing thing of people saying the NFL is scripted. I feel like it's gaining momentum, Bobby. Like it's rigged, it's scripted, which the easiest rebuttal to that to me is, and the Cowboys would be in the Super Bowl all the time. They're a ratings juggernaut if it was scripted. Yeah. This game is not scripted. Can we do away with this, Bobby?
So when you say scripted, do you mean the fixes in, or that the referees influence the game to help certain teams? Because those are two different things. Which one are you referring to?
Well, first of all, let's do the fixes in. That's not a thing, right?
That's
wrong.
It's
not predetermined.
And this, and there's two different groups here, really three, right? There are some people who have fun with it, right? They don't really think the game's rigged, but it's sports. It's not all that serious, and it's fun to complain and blame everybody but your team for losing. So a lot of people are just joking around, but there are some of the people that I think are just grifting because it's become a political topic that want to say, oh, Taylor Swift's a psyop set down to help Joe Biden with last night. So I don't want to conflate the two groups, like the people joking around versus the people who are just trying to increase social media engagement. But no, it's not fixed. If it were fixed, I don't think Brock Purdy would be in the Super Bowl. He would be pretty low on the list.
Okay, but then even the second group, that the refs, look, I'm an emotional fan, just like anybody else. And when the Cowboys are playing and I see the disparity in flags, I go, what the hell? But in the end, I can hear you leading us towards the refs. And by the way, the refs weren't a big factor in the game last night. I mean, they threw some early flags and they were active, but they didn't throw one big controversial flag necessarily that swung the game. But so you think they do favor certain teams, and I mean, I guess in purpose of favoring an outcome?
I think they do. So remember when it was Sunday Night Football and it was Bills and Giants, it was in Buffalo, the crowd was so into the game chanting F the refs, and there was that late pass interference. They didn't call it on the Bills. I think there is a home field advantage where the refs don't want to alter a game and just get swamped with boos by the crowd. I think there's some of that, right? I think that there are times where they pick on certain players. We saw it with Jawan Taylor this year, right? Like they were calling him for false starts when he was lined up like every other right tackle. So I don't think they're rigging the game for certain teams, but I think there are biases in human nature that come in play that aren't always objective and fair.
All right, that's fair. I mean, biases that come into play because your immediate circumstances are forcing you to go with the crowd or whatever that may be. This has been fun. Man, great points about Patrick Mahomes and putting him into historical context. Always love hanging out with you. Thank you, Bobby Burack.
Hey, you too, man. Talk soon.
All right, remember, check out Bobby at Outkick.com. All right, what's the best city for a Super Bowl? What's the best game over the last 20 years? What's the best stadium for a Super Bowl? Let's break it down with a super fan. He's the host of America's Newsroom. It's Bill Himmer, coming up in just a moment here on The Will Cain Show.
I'm Dana Perino, and this is Perino on Politics.
Dana Perino, co-host of The Five and co-anchor of America's Newsroom, returns to Fox News Audio with a brand new podcast, Perino on Politics. Listeners of Everything Will Be Okay will be thrilled by the return of a familiar voice, but with a fresh spin as Dana guides audiences through the 2024 election cycle. Make sure you subscribe to this series wherever you download podcasts and leave a rating and review.
Start the NASCAR season with a bang. Invite a bunch of friends, then fill the Daytona infield like a rock concert. Mix in Grand Marshal Dwayne Johnson, and turn them loose. A 500-mile all-out fight for NASCAR's biggest prize. That's the Great American Race. The Daytona 500, Sunday at 2:30 Eastern on Fox. New from the Fox News Podcast Network.
I'm Emily Campagno, and this is the Fox True Crime Podcast.
And I had nothing to do with her disappearance.
I sit down with the people who lived the nightmares.
I was in shock. I was just devastated.
The investigators who tirelessly worked on the case.
And I really hope that they can catch this guy.
Bringing you closer to the story than you ever thought possible.
Listen and follow now at foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
These are the stories that keep you up at night.
How does Super Bowl 58 rank among, let's say, the last 20 Super Bowls? Welcome back to the Will Cain Show, streaming live at foxnews.com and on the Fox News YouTube channel, as well as Fox News' Facebook. You can always get us on demand on YouTube at Will Cain Show. I wouldn't say running buddy, but I would say over the last couple of days, there's been one familiar face in my Las Vegas Super Bowl 58 experience. From the airplane to the hotel, to the compound out here outside of Allegiant Stadium. My constant companion this weekend has been the host of America's Newsroom. It has been Bill Hemmer. What's up, man?
Hey, man, nice to see you. Good to see you. Good to hang with you.
So how many Super Bowls is this for Bill Hemmer?
I'd have to stop and count them up. It's between 15 and 20.
Why?
20 on the high end.
Why so many Super Bowls?
Because I think there are few places, probably zero places in America, where you can go and 60,000 people are all in a good mood. And that's what you get at kickoff. It doesn't end up that way, but that's what you get when you walk in. You get a lot of smiles and a lot of happy people.
So, it's the last...
By the way, I love football.
I know you do.
I love it. I mean, I go to the game with binoculars, and I got pretty good seats, and I'm still with the binoculars because I want to catch as much as I can.
When I see Bill off camera, when I see you in the hallways, it's usually a football conversation. You truly love the game. Why do you love football so much?
I don't know, just played it growing up. I think it's an ultimate team sport. I think I understand it. I can see the nuances in ways that I can't in other games, or other sports rather. Yeah, I'd say that.
You know, I've always said this, Bill. Football is my number one sport, both college and professional. Soccer has made its way into my second favorite sport. They're entirely different sports, and I've always said football is the biggest approximation to the military. The requirements of football, first of all, it's a job-oriented sport. It's not a freelance sport. It's not, hey, let me see what you can do creatively. It is, as Bill Belichick said, do your job. And it's an amazing task to get that many men who are all contributing individual jobs onto the same page to pursue a common goal. And in the process, they set aside class differences, regional differences, racial differences. It is the closest analogy to our military.
I love it. I really love it. And maybe it's the closest analogy we can draw to a more perfect America. I look at, what you sized up there. The reason they're able to execute in a game like this, when the pressure is never more so than in a Super Bowl, is because they've done it 1,000 times together. And I was watching last night, like the Kansas City offensive line, just two observations here. These guys look, San Francisco's front four is really good. I think that was the best game Chase Young has had, maybe as a pro. He really showed out. And Nick Bosa was gassed toward the end of that game, and he was showing out. And when Kansas City's offensive line did something good, they're fist pumping each other. They're hitting each other in the back. I was like, wow, that is truly a unit. I'll say this about Mahomes. I was at that game in Miami. It was February of 2020, right before the world changed. It's the first play from scrimmage. Mahomes is in a shotgun. I got my binoculars, and I'm watching Nick Bosa, because my brother played at Boston College with Bosa's dad. So I've always kind of followed the family, and Bosa played at Miami, boom, boom, boom. That snap in the first play of that game got back to Mahomes as quickly as Nick Bosa got back there as well. And I think that was in Mahomes' head for 3 quarters. And 4 years ago, he was trying to figure out a way where he could beat that San Francisco defense. I think we saw something very similar last night. Mahomes was like, how do we beat them? And he always waits for the opportunity, not to beat you with his arm, but to beat you with his legs. And that's what he had toward the end of the game.
You're absolutely right. There was nothing they could do for 2.5 quarters, perhaps 3 quarters. But here's the thing about it. You know, I want to almost ask you, what was the one moment? What was the one play? And we could talk about some big moments in a game. That's often the way it is in football. If a kick goes left instead of it going right, or if an interception isn't tipped, whatever it may be. But in a game that includes Patrick Mahomes, I made a list, by the way. I'm like, the 4th and 1, the missed extra point. Yeah. But in the end, if Patrick Mahomes has the ball in his hands with time on the clock, he's going to do what he does.
I would just add this, that I don't think a lot of people have even mentioned in the last 12 hours, is that punt team for San Francisco, when the ball bounced off his cleat.
Yeah.
And I tell you, Will, I was waiting for the replay on the scoreboard, never saw it. I was going to X, because that's what we do when we're watching the game. We're trying to see what people are saying. And there was no good replay of it. I have yet to see physically that football hit his cleat.
Oh, really? You don't see the angle where it just...
I haven't seen, I assume it exists out there. But, I mean, that was really a turning point in terms of momentum.
Are you saying the NFL is rigged?
No. That was good. No. No, I believe that 2 years ago when Cincinnati got screwed.
That's the...
I mean, sorry.
Hey, okay, so you have a scope of 15 to 20 Super Bowls.
Yes.
Let's do this for a minute. Best Super Bowl you've been to?
Wow. Sorry, I can't say best, but I'll tell you some great moments. Malcolm Butler intercepting that Russell Wilson pass for New England to win. That really, really spectacular moment. Last year was a great game.
You were there for 28-3 comeback?
Yeah, I was there too. Yeah, in Houston. I was with my niece. She's a school teacher in Houston, Texas. I'm like, Megan, we got to go. She goes, Billy, the game's not over. I said, this game's over. We're walking toward the far end zone, and we see the interception. And she goes, are you sure you want to leave? And sure enough, New England scores. They get the ball back. They score again. We went back to our seats and sat back down.
What do you think is the best city to host a Super Bowl?
I think Vegas did a really good job, but I think so far it's probably New Orleans, which is where, Fox will have it next year. And the reason why it's so good is because they're really good at big-time entertainment, big-time events. And if you don't need a car, you can walk everywhere, and I think that makes a big difference.
All right, best stadium. Now I'm gonna say something here. I'm gonna say it.
Okay.
This stadium behind me is gorgeous. Look at this. The Death Star, the Raiders' home. It's gorgeous.
And it's brand new.
Brand new.
Yeah.
On the outside. And I'm gonna be real.
Okay.
I was a little underwhelmed on the inside.
You thought so?
It's a little unfinished. You can see the ductwork.
Uh-huh.
It's look.
You had a keen eye. You were looking at the ductwork.
Well, it's hard to admit it. It's hard to miss it.
Yeah.
Some of it feels temporary, by the way. The walls. It's not in the. Here's my top 3, which two of them I haven't been to, but I've seen the pictures and seen on TV. Number 1, SoFi in LA. It looks amazing.
Yeah.
Number 2, AT&T in Dallas.
Good.
It's incredible.
Pretty good.
Hey, side note. Long line, and I counted why. 9 urinals. It's a Super Bowl. Don't have me walk into a room with 9 urinals. I'm missing a lot of the game.
I think potty parrot is turning itself the other way again.
AT&T, everything is nice and big. And then Minnesota. What is it, US Bank?
Yes.
Awesome. Those are my 3.
Yeah.
Best stadium.
I think the one in Minneapolis is really good because I think there's so many windows there that allow daylight to come in. I agree with you on the stadium in is it Fort Worth?
Arlington.
Arlington, thank you. Because of that big screen. Because as a fan, you don't know if you should be watching the game or the television screen.
Rivals
but
it, right.
Pretty amazing stuff. I love SoFi. I did not like the outcome at all. I'm still a little sore. Okay. SoFi is an extraordinary venue. It's hard to walk inside the stadium.
Oh.
I like this because it's got the new car feel, it's got the new car smell. New construction is pretty good. I think that probably does it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they really did a good job in Miami with the Hard Rock, the way they renovated it. That's a very different stadium from what it was originally.
Miami's a great city for a Super Bowl.
I agree with that. Can I say one thing about Super Bowls and losing?
Yeah.
As I tell all my friends, I say there's only one thing worse than going to a Super Bowl, and that's losing a Super Bowl, because it sticks with you for a lifetime. So several years, well, I'm 0-3. Several years ago, I ran into Joe Montana, right? I said, oh man, it's you? I said, I introduced myself. I said, Joe, you were responsible for 2 of the worst days of my childhood. What'd he say?
I get that a lot.
Bingo. I hear that a lot.
I didn't share this with you. I got to hang out yesterday with maybe the greatest Cincinnati Bengal of all time.
Oh, Anthony Munoz.
Anthony Munoz. By the way, his left finger, does that like a lot of offensive linemen. It's just at a 90-degree angle.
Right.
And I was talking, we were up here at whatever it was, 4 a.m. local time, and it's 31 degrees. It's what, 35 degrees?
4 a.m.
Yeah, he got up. He's big Fox News, Fox and Friends. And I said, it's so cold. And he goes, I played in the coldest game in NFL history, 59 below. I said, did you wear sleeves or put the stuff on your arms like a Vaseline? He goes, none of that works. We wore a gray T-shirt, shoulder pads, and a jersey. On AstroTurf in Cincinnati, which he said is like playing on concrete.
That's right. I was at that game.
Really?
Yeah. I was a freshman in high school. You want to hear the story?
I do.
So a buddy of mine, Billy Meyer, he says, we got to get tickets. I said, how do we get tickets? We're just kids. He goes, my uncle's a ticket taker. He said, meet my father on the plaza level. Game's at 1 o'clock. Of course, I'm there at 11:30. And it wasn't 59 below. It was 72 degrees below zero. The Ohio River's frozen. Been frozen for weeks. I'm waiting. I can't find Billy. It's 10 till. They show up. They can't find their uncle because all the ticket takers are so bundled up. There's an RV from here to that camera right there. Guy comes out of the RV and says, what do you need? I said, I got to get in. He goes, how many do you need? I said, I'm sorry, but I need 3. One for me, one for Billy, one for his dad. He takes me inside his RV, hands me 4 tickets. I come out, we go. Go sliding across the ice, green level. I can feel, to this day, I can feel my shins hitting the back of the green level seats right as Jim Breach kicked off for the coldest game ever played. Boom! And we won. Went to the Super Bowl and lost to Joe Montana.
When I asked you why you love football, you threw in there you played. Tell me about what did you play? What position?
I was strong safety, Elder High School, Cincinnati. We had some good teams, and we had some great friends and some great buddies for a lifetime. So, you talk about like the mechanics of a football game and a football team and how you make it work and how you make it well. And I said, because you do it 1,000 times. And I think the other reason is because you trust the people who are around you. And I think it's true in football, and I think it's true in life. I think it might sound like a cliche, but what those guys do on that team, the only reason they're able to do it is because they do it together. And they've got coaches on their team who are leaders. And they know which guys on the team, when they say something, when they need to listen.
I also had Joe Theismann this weekend, and he said to me, playing quarterback in the NFL is the most dependent position in sports. Not the most independent, the most dependent. If everyone around you does not do your job, you cannot do your job. But I think that's true for the sport at large. When I said earlier, Belichick's mantra was do your job, and I think you're right, this is a great analogy for many things in life. It's don't try to do his job. Don't try to do his job. Do your job and trust him to do his job. If we all start doing whatever we can, even in the pursuit of success, we're going to mess up the entire enterprise that makes up for this to be a team game. Just do your job.
Yeah, and Anthony Munoz could tell you, because he was, in my opinion, he was the best ever. You got a left tackle. He's 6'8", and whatever it was, 285 pounds coming out of University of Southern California then. And I was looking at San Francisco's success on offense, and if you look at their left tackle, the same position that Anthony Munoz played, you got Trent Williams. He is a mountain of a man, and he is really, really good. And I don't think that Brock Purdy would be able to have the success he's had in his second year playing without people like Trent Williams on his left side.
Let's bring this back, as you just did, to the game at hand, to the Super Bowl, to Super Bowl 58. Let's look forward. First of all, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce are talking about winning 3 in a row, something that nobody has done. They just won 3 in 5 years. He's 28 years old, Mahomes. He's got 3 Super Bowl wins. Brady finished his career with 6.
Well,
now,
7 because he won one
with
in Tampa.
That's right, Tampa Bay as well. And by the way, Brady showed you can play till you're 40.
Right.
So Mahomes could have another 12-year run here to win 4 more.
Yeah, I guess it's possible. It's something we'll watch. I think he also has something that a lot of teams don't have. And Brady had it with Belichick. And Mahomes has it with Andy Reid. And what a fantastic coach he is. The way players respect him and the mind that he has for the game. Look, Mahomes is a great player, but he can't do it without Reid, and Reid can't do it without Mahomes. So I think it's an awesome combination. I think if you go through great historical NFL teams, you'll find a very similar relationship between the coach and their star player, like you did with Kansas City. It burns me, man, because my Bengals are 3-1 against the same team.
I told you might have the one quarterback that can beat Mahomes.
Maybe, if he can stay healthy. Come on, Joey B.
Love hanging out with him. He's a big football fan. I've loved talking to you about the Super Bowl, man. I appreciate you hanging out here.
Okay, you got it,
Let's get
Will.
together on the Will Cain Show soon, and I really want to learn about Bill Hemmer.
Right on, man.
All
I'll
right.
see you back in New York.
All right. Bye.